Got traffic there. Blaster, just take it up to the departure end of the runway, then a left turn and a lowest downwind. Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left face, you're following a Cessna down, low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, 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 go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final, you're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold, take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final, runway 9er clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you to offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
Oh, we had one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger. Let's see, what we got, a tricycle. Tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tail dragger, down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here, you clear to land on 9, all the way to the white dot, go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Canard, just come to the runway, and I might have to just send you around. That'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern, or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Canard's going to have to go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. You do not descend. Do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. You can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the downwinds. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. Clear to land on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow out follow on the final. And as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to resequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Canard?
Yeah, Canard.
All right, Canard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Canard's got the jet in tight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, here on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around. Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that. After 35 years, you would think, right? All right. So let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. Keep it airborne. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. Put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep it.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
Four, three, two, one.
Hey! Hello.
Welcome welcome everybody to this Thursday live stream. I don't know about you, but it's been bloody grim here out all day. Although I believe tomorrow it's going to be stonkingly beautiful, and I, for one, am going to see if I can get a little bit of air under the wings and go flying, because it's been over a week or so now. But anyway,
it's pretty chilly out there as well.
I know. That's why I've got my jumper on. The central heating's on. I'm going to get my thick socks out, my long johns, and I'm going to get my. What is it you have? I haven't got one anymore. I need to get one of those things that you wear when you go to bed, like they do in the old.
Deer stalker, Parker? No,
I don't think you go to bed. Stalker, yeah, I don't know. One with the little bubble on. I don't know. A bit like, who knows? Whatever. I'll see if I can find one.
Elf hat.
Maybe there'll be my Halloween costume that Annabelle is trying to persuade us all to wear at some stage. Then maybe not. Anyway, before I become too ridiculous, which is going to be quite easy, I think it's time to say thank you very much to Skydemon for supporting the live stream. I say it every week, and it's true. It would be tough to do it without them. I'm pretty sure that most people out there are using Skydemon, but if you're not, why not for a start? But if you're not, go download a copy and have a go at the 30-day trial and see what see what you think. Here's a weekly top tip. It's all about wind, because it's windy season, isn't it? Particularly if you live in Tampa. Here you go.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rob from Skydemon, and here's another top tip.
As you plan a route in Skydemon, you'll see the wind barbs fly onto the screen. Use the long and the short ticks on the barbs to easily see the wind strength, in this case around 10 knots. Or open the What's Here menu to read it directly. We include wind forecasts up to 24,000 feet and around 30 hours into the future, and we use this data when calculating the headings and ground speeds for your pilot's log. In the virtual radar, you can even see arrows of various sizes indicating a head or tailwind. Here you can see we have a nice tailwind, and opening What's Here confirms that it's 14 knots. This flight has been planned at 5,500 feet, which we can see in here. So that's the altitude for which we are showing wind on the main map. You can change this here, but you can also use the animation tool to see what the wind is doing at different altitudes. With the animation tool active, use a vertical swipe on it to change the level of the wind displayed. You can now also long press anywhere on the map in this mode to see the wind for that point.
For more information, check out our website www.skydemon.aero.
I like that. Paul Fraser Benison says, I always have headwinds. Can I change that setting?
Yep, you can. You have to change it on the compass by normally about 180 degrees, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah. And Rob gives us a new catchphrase in there to go with absurd NOTAM. He was definitely promoting nice tailwind.
Nice tailwind. Yeah. There's actually quite a good little suite of stuff. There's some other things that you didn't mention in there. You can just like find the optimum altitude and stuff, and you can set your own winds. I was just playing around, putting in some of the Tampa winds yesterday. You can get places quite quickly when it's windy.
Getting places quite quickly. Did you see what was going on with the BBC wind forecast today?
Yeah,
I did.
Anywhere between 5,000 and 17,000 knots. I think there was some errors in the data there.
Do you think property damage is likely at 17,000 knots?
There was our little airfield WhatsApp group was joking. We said someone with the slowest aeroplane said, "I think I could set a speed record to somewhere in the States." I said, "I think our farmer's tractor could set a speed record with winds like that."
Absolutely.
Good. Anyway, so talking about the weather, let's see what Simon's got in store for us.
Hi everyone, sorry that I can't be with you this evening. It's been a cracking day though, hasn't it? And lots of sunshine around for many of us. And it looks like it's not going to be too bad a weekend either. Starting off just with the satellite picture from this afternoon, because it was so good. Shows the cumulus cloud, quite flat cumulus cloud across Wales, central and eastern England. Some more cumulus cloud here across northern Scotland as well. And overall, just a really pleasant day. Typical of what you would expect with a polar maritime air mass, which is exactly what we've had, with high pressure out towards the west of the country, low pressure towards the east. That resulted in us getting a northwesterly wind and bringing us that polar maritime air mass. It's sunshine, it's showers, it's good visibility, it's cold, and base is typically around 3,000 feet, and cloud tops usually 12 to 15,000 feet, some showers and exposed areas, and that's exactly what we saw. You'll learn more about air masses if you come along to weather school. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But for Friday, for tomorrow, here's how things shape up. Front going into Scotland, bringing some cloud and outbreaks of rain to western Scotland, northern and western parts of Ireland. The base is here pretty low. You see here on the cloud bases 1,000 to 2,000 foot as a base. Tops probably about 12 to 15,000 feet. Elsewhere, Southern Ireland, coming through Wales, coming through England, it looks like fair conditions. Bits of cloud across Northern England, quite breezy across Northern England and Scotland, but generally fair conditions. And elsewhere, we're looking at bases typically of around 3,000 feet, tops about 10,000 feet. Just watch, excuse me, through the channel, where we've got a weak, very weak front that may just bring some cloud, and it could bring local bases down to 1,500 to 2,000 feet, little bits of rain around. So be aware of that if you're thinking of going across channel tomorrow, or perhaps flying around the Channel Isles. Check the forecast carefully. Now, for Saturday, low pressure in control across northern Scotland. Extends a front down through Ireland, and you see that here on these cloud bases, those yellow colours telling us that we've got bases of less than 1,000 feet in places, tops about 15,000 feet. Outbreaks of rain, some of it heavy in the north and the west, windy as well, little better across eastern parts of Scotland, but gusts of 30 knots across much of Scotland, Northern Ireland, running into Northern England. Elsewhere, generally it is fair, but I think we're going to have a little weak feature that just moves through the Midlands into eastern parts of England. Bases of around 2,000 feet, tops perhaps 12,000 feet. A few showery bursts of rain, whereas elsewhere we're looking at a 3,000 foot base and a 10 to 12,000 foot top. Okay as well ahead of that little feature, but just beware of it. It's a bit of a messy one on Saturday. High pressure building in for Sunday. Better conditions for all. Looks like being a decent flyable day. Yes, cloud increases across southern and southwest Ireland later, perhaps across the far southwest of England as well, but even here I think the bases stay quite high. Bases above about 4,000 feet tops at about 7,000 feet, so not bad at all. Now, I mentioned, didn't I, about Aviation Weather School Part 1. I'm delighted to announce some new dates for that on the consecutive Tuesday evenings of the 26th of November and the 3rd of December between 6:30 p.m. and 9 p.m. This is your chance to get yourself confident about weather, be able to forecast it better yourself, spot weather windows 5 days in advance, and get yourself beyond the PPL Met. It's for all pilots, whether you're pre-student or whether you're commercial. You're going to learn a lot on the course. Go to weatherschool.co.uk to book your place now. Right, folks, I will leave you with that for now. Have a fantastic flying weekend. Keep safe, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Okay, looks promising.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it? It looks,
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
I love a bit of polar maritime air mass.
Well, that comes with a bit of a northerly wind, which is a bit cross for a couple of the runways around here. So
Yeah.
not too bad.
Work with it.
So, question of the week. Have you ever had any serious issues with carb ice? If you have, put your stories into the comments and we'll pick up on them later.
If you've ever flown a small continental engined aeroplane, you've always dealt with carb ice of some sort. So.
And Flyer Club members, thank you for joining us. If you are a member, if you're not, you can join at flyer.co.uk/membership. We've got a bunch of really good free landing vouchers this month. We've got Edsfield in Yorkshire, Cromer, aka North Reps, Kenyon Hall, Newtonards, and 50% off at Land's End. So go and make use of those this weekend if you can. For webinars, we've also got on the 17th, Andy Sinclair is going to be talking about the instrument rating, which should be a really interesting webinar. And you can catch up on the avionics chat with Harry Lees.
That's
next month.
Actually, Andy Sinclair's done it already, so you can catch up with Andy Sinclair. That was on the 1st.
Yeah.
Harry Lees is next month on the 12th.
Excellent.
Yeah, log in, enjoy them. They're very useful.
They are. Very good. Very good. I guess it's time for news, really, isn't it? So we'll move swiftly on to news, because I forgot to mention that George Smokey Bacon is in the green room eating his crisps, and we are very much looking forward to talking to him later. So we'll work through the news and get to Major Smokey shortly. Sorry?
Well remembered.
Well remembered. Yeah, I got there in the end. It takes a little while sometimes when you get to my age. Anyway, so big news. In France, you may have heard of Aura Aero. Aura Aero are producing a range of trainers, kind of effectively two-seat trainers. We've got a beautiful looking tail dragger and a almost as beautiful looking nose dragger. But they've got an electric airplane as well. Obviously, everyone's got an electric airplane, haven't they? Anyway, EDF, Electricité de France, he says, basically the multinational electricity company that's building part of Brinkley Point and doing all sorts, decided to go buy it, or at least, but not the whole company, but to make a significant investment in it. So they've gone and bought it as part of their decarbonisation strategy and chucked a whole bunch of money into them. So they were very, very happy with that. So I don't know if anyone can imagine. Johnny, you were saying that there's kind of something sort of similar in the UK.
Well, in as much as the vertical aerospace at Kemble, the CEO is also the CEO of OVO Energy. So arguably there's a tie-up in there. I don't know if there's any funding going from one to the other, but yeah, there's a technical parallel.
Probably not going from vertical aerospace to I wouldn't have thought.
But the EDF energy thing is interesting, because it's amazing that a big corporation like that has bought in, but it's probably peanuts for them, isn't it? And it's one of those, looks great on the CV kind of thing. Probably doesn't. It's like a rounding error on their budget sheet. Bearing in mind, EDF are the guys behind Hinkley Point C, which I think is going to be what, £32 billion.
Yeah, so I think probably they're more interested in Aura Aero's big project, which is a hybrid electric regional airliner. Which apparently has got a huge number of orders already, and it hasn't even flown, let alone, it hasn't been built yet, let alone flown.
The regional airline sector is very, very sensitive to climate issues, and particularly in France, there are rules that are passed that have basically said that if you have a train journey that you can do, I think, in 3 hours or something, then you can't run an airline there. And the whole kind of regional airline business, particularly in Europe, is kind of worried about it, to be perfectly honest. So like this is good for them. What I thought was this is going to be slightly cool. I do apologise in advance, but there's a company. This is Aura Aero's tail dragger and nose dragger, which are pretty good looking airplanes, and that tail dragger looks lovely in the flesh.
Those are the Lycoming powered ones, aren't they?
They are the Lycoming powered ones. And then they put their electric engine in, not quite sure what, and they make it look like this. And it's
no!
Oh man, what have you done? What's that exhaust pipe doing sticking out the side? I wonder.
Oh yeah.
There's a little sneaky two-stroke under there or something. I don't know.
It's like a Tesla with a little Chinese generator strapped to the boot.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. Maybe it's a janitrol heater or something. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway.
Actually, we've struck on something there. Electric aeroplanes. Conventional aeroplanes are bad enough with cabin heaters. Electric airplanes, what are they going to be doing for cabin heat?
Well, they have an electric heater.
Just watch your range go down.
I know.
Yeah. Like my electric car. When you're driving along, it's a bit nippy in here.
I was cold on my cross country, turned on my heater, and actually can't get to my destination now.
Pretty sure the CAA is still going to mandate a carbon monoxide detector, though.
You can always have one of those petrol heaters in there, I suppose. Yeah. Anyway, talking about aircraft and designs, the Royal Aeronautical Society is having its annual light aircraft design conference in November, on the 25th of November. This picture here shows one of the speakers is going to be talking about the revival of this. It's an autogyro originally produced by a company called Avian. It's now being resurrected by a company called Pegasus. They're called ARC, and they're calling it Pegasus. It's a very old design, but apparently there's good mileage in it. But we hear all about that at the design conference. There's a whole range of subjects they're going to be tackling. I should say, first of all, I was a bit confused when this news of this came in, because there is another Royal Aeronautical Society conference next week, which is about light aircraft, and that's the President's Conference. It's completely different. The one everyone's really interested in is the design conference, one-day thing, where they're looking at a whole range of subjects, includes the latest electric power systems, development of this Pegasus gyroplane, adapting an automotive diesel engine for flight. Is that Mark Hales, by the way?
It is.
Yeah. How to predict the cost of your light aircraft design? Well, that's easy, isn't it? Think of a number, times it by 4 million.
Yeah.
No one's ever been able to do that reliably.
Common errors in wing design, a hydrogen fuel cell system for aircraft, the Aerocycle human-powered aircraft. Apparently, there's also an update on E-conditions, which is quite extensive, and they'll be talking about the restoration of a DH-60 Moss Major. Plus, the Royal Aeronautical Society will announce the winners of the 2023-24 design competition, as well as details of the next one for next year. As I said, it's on the Monday, the 25th of November at the Society's London HQ.
Yeah.
Mike Roberts says, when will competitions, because quite often these competitions are all for slightly oddball things, aren't they? Mike's like, when will there be a competition for realistic, sensible designs rather than concepts that will never be built? It's a good point.
People probably said that about the Model T Ford, though. But yeah, incidentally, that Pegasus gyro was nearly a little bit derogatory towards it. I didn't mean that at all. It was first certified 56 years ago in Canada. So,
and John Whiten, who's a director of ARC, who's behind the Pegasus, is in the comments tonight.
Hello, John.
Went too rude then.
I didn't mean. Yeah, no, I stopped myself, didn't I? Hi, John. See you soon. Right. Okay. Moving on, Ed.
Yes, another new design, but with kind of old roots, is the Bushliner. So Bushliner is a company that wants to bring back the Cessna 185, and it's got what it's called the Cyclone 1850, and they've been working on this for a while, and their latest options that they've unveiled are two enormous doors. Now, this looks like a big door, but actually they've now gone with two doors that eat right into the top of the aeroplane, and you're going, wow, that is a lot of aeroplane that's missing. But apparently Bushliners say this is possible because the strength of the fuselage of the Cyclone 1850, it's got a like a reinforced spine, so you can take all of that out for giant doors for loading enormous things in, and it's fine. And they say it can withstand 5 times the landing weight of the aeroplane. Because I've got to say, seeing something like that, you go, surely heavy landing, and it's just going to go poof. But they say no. We first reported on Bushliner's plans 3 years ago, almost to the day, when they announced that they were going to remanufacture the Cessna 180 and 185 models. They've also got the Cyclone version in their repertoire as well. That's an experimental version of those Cessna designs, and I think it seems like they're going to get further with that, because they can do that via the experimental route than they might do with the remanufacturing. The Cyclone 1850 has a higher gross weight than the 185, 4 inches wider cockpit, big doors, as we've seen, 8 feet of flat floor for loading, 2 feet longer wings, longer flaps, and larger fuel tank. And it's powered by a 315 horse Lycoming. Pricing $300,000 to $600,000 for a quick build kit. $800,000 and up for a factory-built aeroplane. But apparently, they're talking of delivering their first aeroplane in 2025.
Yeah.
So,
the winner with those doors is if you stick one of those on floats and you only have the door on one side, and you if you can unload onto the dock, it's fine. But if you've got a door on both sides, it kind of doesn't matter which way you end up on the dock, and you can unload both sides without having to fall in or get eaten by alligators or whatever it is they have in places where they're
Mike Roberts is wearing his design hat. He says, torsional stiffness will be shocking. Well, Mike, they think they've got it figured out. And Skycrow asks, have we seen the new Draco Wilga company? Were you not here last week, Skycrow? That was the top news story.
We spoke about it last week. Yes, we have seen it. It's that'll be interesting. But do you think it's all down to Trent Palmer that all this Bush stuff is happening?
I think we shouldn't underestimate him and his Kit Fox, the effect that has had on the popularity. Well, I guess them and the Flying Cowboys, who were kind of vanished into the cowboy dust.
From little Kit Foxes,
but that was a real popular thing on YouTube, wasn't it? And I guess that's caught on.
Yeah.
Well, next news story: Rolls-Royce are closing their electrical business. They announced last year that the UK headquartered firm was going to ditch Rolls-Royce Electrical. They had initially kind of hinted on the fact that they were going to sell that part of the business, but nothing has happened. No sale has come through, so the business is going. It was started in 2022, and it was originally early connected with Siemens and their aviation sort of aspirations. And they've done some things. We've seen the Axel project with Electroflight, which produced. Arguably, Electroflight did most of the work, but still, Rolls-Royce were a partner in that, and there was a world record that nobody's touched so far come anywhere near beating. So, yeah, it's a case of what could have been.
It just seems a shame to me because they bought Siemens, and not long after Siemens had collaborated with Tecnam on a Rotax electric hybrid that was really exciting in the P2010, and we saw that exhibited at Aero. But it's like Rolls-Royce went, give us all the stuff, and you're like, wow, this is going to be amazing. And then it's like a kid that's got too many toys. They've lost interest, and I don't know. I guess unfortunately maybe they've gone, oh, maybe there's not much money to be made here, and they can't get involved.
It's with finance, because Rolls-Royce has been hemorrhaging cash for several years, and they've got a new boss. Well, I say he's been in there just over a year. And he's turned the company around in an incredible amount of, really quickly.
This is the appropriately named turbofan Ergen Billick, isn't it?
Turbofan, turbofan, very good. That's the chap. No, he's rescued the company, if you like, because it was going nowhere cash-wise before that. Oh, next story is me.
Next story.
Oh dear, one of these things are going to hang on. Yep. So there's new energy at the General Aviation Awareness Council. This one of the many organisations within GA in the UK. It's got a new chairman, and this is pictured on the screen, Matt Wilkins, who you may know if you've flown into Old Buckingham Airfield in Norfolk. He's the manager there. Matt is a busy chap, actually, because he does all sorts of things, as well as being the chairman of the General Aviation Awareness Council. He's deputy chair of the Airfield Operators Group, chairman of the British Air Display Association, chairman of the Airfields Working Group of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Aviation, head of a GA working group for the CAA, and a flying display director at Duxford. So he's a very busy chap, but he's got time for doing this. What he's done immediately with GAC, as it's known, they produced a new prospectus, which will form the basis of their ongoing discussions and representations to both government and the regulator. On the website, we've got a link to download that prospectus. And immediately, the first thing they've done is there's a consultation out at the moment about the planning framework. And they've put together a response to that, which is pretty good actually. Again, you can download that from the website. It's the outgoing chairman of GAA, Charles Henry, who's been around the industry for a long time. He's been made the vice president, kind of an honorary position, I guess.
It's probably a rude question, but how old do you reckon Charles Henry is now? Because I mean, he was getting on a bit when he was when he was chairman of CAA Air. And that was like a gazillion years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But he can't compete with how many chairs Matt's got. Matt's got more chairs than a dining set.
Got more chairs than DFS. Right. Okay. Moving on briefly. Just a very quick story. The dates for Roswell have been announced. This is not the alien thing. This is the takeover from Reno, and those dates are 10th and 14th of September 2025. So if you fancy a look at some air racing in a new place, as in Roswell, that's when you need to book your holidays and book your time off. Right. I think we'll move on at this point. So we're going to do a little bit of juggling here. So let me bring on George.
Hi guys.
Move you to where you go. There you go.
Fab.
Johnny. Johnny. I think you know each other anyway.
We know each other well.
Absolutely. Very nice. Very kind of you to invite me. I hope we get through this okay. Well, anyway, crack on, Johnny.
Well, thanks for joining us, George. For anyone who doesn't know, we're joined by a military aviator and a man who has been and still is behind many air shows around the country, as well as the voice of some of them, George Bacon. George, thank you for joining us. We'll start with where it all began. So where did it all begin?
What, you mean flying? Or where I was conceived? No, I won't go that far back. Well, actually, flying started for me on a bit of a whim, really, because I sort of dived into a couple of other potential careers. And believe it or not, I trained as a teacher, first of all. Then I was quite interested in broadcasting, and we'll come back to that maybe at the end of this chat, because there are obvious reasons for some of what I do now. But I just wanted to do something completely different at the end of uni. I mean, we you know, when you're an undergrad, you drink for 2 years, and then in the third year you think, oh, bloody hell, I'm going to have to find a job at the end of this. And I just thought, I'm going to take a pitch. I just thought, yeah, flying, that sounds great. What's the best place to learn to fly a plane? I chose the Royal Air Force, and with very, very little knowledge, I can assure you, I don't come from the normal sort of background. I wasn't an air cadet. My parents weren't involved very much with the military, or indeed, and nothing to do with flying. I was shocked and humbled to, you know, cruise through the selection process and get in. And, you know, my first solo was on a jet Provost, which is something that, you know, a year and a half. Well, this is quite funny too, because this is me. I actually picked up a sword on the way through training, which was quite nice too, given the fact that I absolutely knew nothing about uniform service. This was at the end of officer training, obviously, and a very stern gentleman on the left of the photograph there. And he was Sergeant Major Davis, an absolute legend of a character from the Queen's Colour Squadron. But I mean, that was really interesting, because I'd never put myself down as a military man. I mean, a lot of people would look at me and think that I probably, you know, it was like part of my lifestyle, but not really, because, you know, having gone into it, I think I always saw the funny side of everything. I didn't necessarily take it all very seriously, and maybe that's why it made it a bit easier for me. I don't know, but you know, like when you go through all this military training, apart from, you know, jumping in and out of well, some very nice aircraft, thank you for that, a legendary training aircraft actually there, and actually very, very straightforward to fly. You know, you compare that with a chipmunk. A chipmunk's invariably harder. But I was just wanted to say that, you know, my approach to military training was just to have as much fun as possible, take as much out of it as you can. And of course, I was up against all these terribly serious people who'd that's all they wanted to do since they were born, and you know, studied all sorts of ludicrous stuff. And when it came to do the analysis of a leader, which is what part of your officer training, you know, they were all looking at people like Slessor and Tedder and you know, Trenchard and things like that. Well, my analysis was of Captain Kirk. Of course, the captain of the and I think that marked my career out as somebody who was very left flanking. And what on earth is this guy doing here? And it was very amusing because when it came to the presentations, everybody did a very formal thing. So I got a couple of mates to actually set up the cockpit of the Starship Enterprise. I was, of course, Captain Kirk. And then I got another mate who was Irish. I don't know if you remember This Is Your Life, that wonderful television program back in the 70s. I was sort of giving all the wrong leads, getting people to beam me all over the place. And making all the wrong decisions, because of course he wasn't that great a leader because he was always getting involved. And then of course this mate of mine came through the audience of this, you can imagine all the directing staff there, can't you? All in their refinery and everything else. Tonight, Captain Kirk, this is your life. And that's how we did our presentation. Anyway, that's just one of many, many amusing stories of my passageway through military life. Definitely not the norm.
I've got to say, George, how did that go for you?
Well, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I think they were just totally and utterly gobsmacked at, at this. And as I say, I got the Sword of Honor at the end of it, and I was astonished. I absolutely astonished, having walked into it. But it was a great story. I thought he was a brilliant guy to analyze because, of course, he was always jumping ship. And then getting into deep trouble and not being able to get back and stuff like that. So I thought he was a very good aviation leader to analyze for actually showing good and bad qualities. There we go. Crack on. We could hear a long time, by the way, guys. So Johnny, you better interrupt with a few more questions. The early training was terrific, and of course, thousands and thousands of guys went through JP training at Church Benton and Linton. I was at Linton. It was absolutely brilliant just to walk into that as a youngster. To be told, okay, I remember before my first solo, there were about 70, maybe 60 or 70 JPs at Linton in those days. I seem to remember 3 training squadrons. It was the heyday, very much of the Air Force, just squillions of jobs going. But I remember my instructor saying, okay, right, I'm going to jump out now and you go for right. And he said, don't worry, if it all goes wrong, just throw it away and come back again another one. And I went, sorry, what do you mean by that? He said, well, there's plenty of others on the line. If you don't like it, if you're feeling like it, we'll just bang out and we'll pick you up. What is it? This can't be true. But I guess he was just trying to make me feel relaxed. But anyway, it was great. It's great. It was literally a lot of my generation obviously went through JP training. It was damn good aircraft. Sadly, I think online there's some scurrilous stuff written about. I actually ended up having a bit of a medical flying accident doing a spin aero sortie, lost control. Not me, even the instructor couldn't get it, and we lost about 10,000 feet. I blew an eardrum, and sadly that was the end of my RAF career. But actually I then moved on to a whole new world. And somebody commented on the side when we were talking about the bushliner. I discovered life as a bush pilot, which was just brilliantly satisfying. It really, really was. And from that moment, despite having done all the exams in the book at the time, I just knew that I was not cut out. I didn't have the nature or personality I felt to go into frontline commercial airliner flying. I just loved the freedom. Particularly, I had 2 years in Canada. It is just North America. It's just so much space, so much geography to experience. And I was very fortunate to fly the Beaver on all 3 formats in skis and floats. This is a classic Beaver environment. This is the strip at Banff National Park. Just on the left of that picture where the ground is rising, that goes up to 10,000 feet. There was a windsock at either end of that strip, and frequently they would be pointing towards each other. And literally, you had to make some really, really tricky decisions. The old phrase of I learned about flying from that. For me, this was just a great growing up adventure. It was absolutely terrific. And I noticed, you were talking about the doors on the bushliner. again, I could talk for hours about the Beaver, and there's some great publications about it. But the doors on the Beaver was designed by pilots to do a particular job, and that was to open up the Northwest Territories, right up in the Arctic Circle. And to do that, they had to pre-position a lot of equipment. So it's a float plane environment, essentially. Flying a Beaver in Canada on wheels is very, very unusual. So I used to take a lot of people for rides in it. But the doors on the Beaver are specifically designed to take a standard oil drum. And I suspect the Bushliner designers have something else in mind there as well. And of course, on floats, you basically got an external load carrying platform there. And you Google photographs of the Beaver float plane flying, and it's just fantastic. People would put a canoe on the skis, and despite all the numbers in the book about what you can do with it and where you can go with it, nonetheless, as long as you could get it up on the step, you knew you could take off. And it was just, and it still is. I mean, they're still worth a fortune. Any Beaver is worth a lot of money. It is a classic workhorse. But getting on skis, I mean, I was out there and I found the ski pack in the back of the hangar, and nobody had used it for literally years. So I just couldn't resist it. So I got all the technicians. I said, look, we've got to get this gear out and get this aircraft rigged up so I can fly through the winter. And of course, winters in Canada are not very warm. They average between about -20 and -40 out in the prairie. Anyway, we got it on, and I said, okay, guys, who's going to come with me? We need to go and do a test flight on this. Nobody volunteered to come with me. Where was I going to go and test it? I didn't really know. So I rang the jet guys up at Cold Lake. I'd been up there a few times, and they sort of got them a map, talked me through a map reference and a particular creek on the edge of Cold Lake that they thought had the thickest ice. Cold Lake was about an hour and a half's flight from where I was. There is nothing in the middle, very few radio comms. And of course, you got used to the bush pilot. You always carried, an oil can with you. You carried a flask. You carried a sleeping bag, mitts, all that sort of stuff. You always planned not to, you planned to come back, but you may well end up spending a couple of nights out in the prairie somewhere. So I went up with all the gear, never having flown a ski plane before in my life. Extraordinary that this should happen. And anyway, approached this creek, identified it, did the usual, 5 S's, and did a recce around it. And then, I thought I'm going to shoot an approach, and in I came. And the first thing you get with skis on hard packed ice is just an immense vibration. So you hit the deck, and then it is all the way along the ice and bumping and rushing your way along. And then I thought, bloody hell, how do I stop this thing? And you're all much more grown-up aviators than ever I am. I was in many ways having a lot of fun naively, and I will admit to that. So I put a touch of rudder on, and I thought, well, I'll just try a bit of wind effect and everything else, and maybe I can get a bit of extra friction there. Oh no, it was the best ground loop in sliding balletic motion in the middle of this lake, and I was just praying that nobody was watching. I had absolutely no idea. Anyway, everything was safe. So I did obviously took off and shot a few more approaches. And then as a result of that, ended up doing 2 winters on skis, and then mixed my flying during the summer, flying other people's float planes, and obviously on military duty, flying my wheeled aircraft. So happy days. It was a great adventure. And, one of my fears, do interrupt if I'm banging on, won't you? Oh yeah, I see we've still got quite a few people listening. That's good, isn't it? It's just, when I look at today's youngsters going through, I think they're missing out on a huge amount of learning and experience, and I worry that the simulator-driven training approach, the minimum hours training approach till you get in the right-hand seat and things like that, and the huge amount of automation, and also the huge amount of digital navigation. I get that it is safer, I mean, certainly flying anywhere around the London zone, you've got to have that digital kit. But, my word, growing up and learning the basics and experiencing and making difficult decisions, it worries me now when I see, the analysis coming out of so many modern, commercially digital driven aviation that, people just haven't got that ingrained sense that you get, a bit like the Sully experience, and the Gimli glider, putting the 757 down at Gimli, which was not far from where I was based, actually. All those things. But I digress. Back to you, Johnny.
Where did you go after Canada? Give us some other bush flying stories.
Well, I certainly didn't fly bush flying. I then came back to the Army. By the way, I didn't even know anything about the Army when the Air Force said, sorry, we can't accommodate you in anything else. They were very kind. They said you can go and do anything else in the Air Force. But somebody said, well, why don't you go and call the Army? And I said, well, what do they do? And they said, well, they've got this and that and everything else. And I thought, okay, I'll give that a try. And funnily enough, when I went to see the medical guy, he was remarkably accommodating and said, well, that's brilliant. He said, we don't have any pressurized aircraft and we rarely fly above 500 feet. So stamp, you're in. It was terrific. But no, I got through that Beaver experience, I got involved in surveillance and reconnaissance work in Northern Ireland. So, and I was the trials pilot. I mean, nobody needs to trial an Islander really, but I was the trials pilot for bringing the Islander into Army service in the recce and surveillance role. In many ways, my bush experience was great because, of course, the Islander is still excellent style aircraft. They're still selling today, amazingly rugged, really practical. And I'm delighted to say that a military spec it had a 737 cockpit, to be honest. Everything was dual nav and everything else. I mean, it was an amazingly over-spec'd design when it came in. And my role was developing it as to accommodate all sorts of very interesting, spooky equipment. And it proved to be hugely successful. And as you know, the Air Force operated it out of Northolt as well on special mission equipment. And that's how I was recruited into Broughton Norman as a result, not just of the Northern Ireland trials and stuff that I did. I was seconded to Boscombe for a couple of months doing that work. But also that slide you just showed of the Gulf, I was absolutely in my element when they said we need a special mission aircraft out in, that was Gulf 1, by the way, 91. That was somewhere in the Kuwaiti desert. But being in an aircraft that basically all you needed is some pretty flat, rugged terrain was just, music to my ears. It was terrific. And the fact that they were turbines as well. And you had the legs to go a lot of places. Whilst it looked potentially rough, and it was an experience, it was for the first of two wars I was involved in. The amusing thing was, you went into this amazing headquarters every morning, and you talk to the fighter guys, and you talk to the tanker guys, and everything else, and the whole airspace over a war zone is stacked up from about 1,000 feet all the way up to 40,000 feet. Clearly, the AWACS were the godfathers. Everywhere you flew, you always just checked in with one of the godfathers up above, which was great. But it was also complex. I just said at the end of every day I went flying, I said, so do you mind if I just go everywhere at 500 feet? Gee, you can do that? Yeah, I can do what I want. I can go, because I'm on special missions. So, and it was terrific. Literally, you still checked in, and you still got obviously intelligence briefing back on threat levels and stuff. But it was just terrific to do that. And the reason we were there is because the rotary couldn't do to get the distances involved. You needed an aircraft that Islander had about 4.5 hours endurance. But we were still able to take off fully IFR in really crap weather back at base and still navigate to a tiny strip. All the early navigate. I mean, kids, today's trainees don't do it. But part of my early training was landing on goosenecks or just 2 Land Rovers. So you land in a pool of light, just as the Lysander guys did in the Second World War. I did all of that, and it was the same in Gulf One, believe it or not. We had all that technology, we had all those aircraft, but I was still poodling around on a grid reference, looking out for 2 Land Rovers and a pool of light, and it worked. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. I'm sure in a previous life I would have been a Lysander pilot, but maybe I probably look like one, don't I? Say enough. No comments, please. It was terrific to do that. But one of the great advantages was that because I was so far north, up on the Iraqi border all the time, that the nearest place to refuel was Bahrain International Airport, which stayed open 24 hours a day throughout the war, and so did the duty-free shop. And I can't tell you much more about that, but it was one of the best supply lines throughout the entire Gulf War. So there we are. And then I came back and left the military after that, went to Britain Norman, and then I clearly traveled the world. I did lots of deliveries of Islanders, lots of long distance flying. Again, solo pilot. I found it really, really rewarding doing solo pilot stuff, particularly when you're literally given an aircraft, a handful of cash, a brand new aircraft, by the way, which is always a bit of a responsibility, and said, well, this has got to be in Borneo by the 15th of next month. Off you go. And you did all the planning yourself. It was the days before Sky Demon as well. But luckily, a lot of the cabs that I delivered had weather radar on them, which was absolutely essential when you get down into the tropics. But I did a lot of deliveries down into Africa. Really, really fascinating flying. And then there we go. I'm looking at the time. Are you still with me, John?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in with a different topic quickly. We've got a few minutes to go, but the airshow industry. So
yes,
it's been a difficult 10 years with Shoreham, with seaside shows cancelling for cost, environmental reasons, insurance, that sort of thing. Is the industry in a good place at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, British Air Displays do incredibly well. Fixed base air displays do exceptionally well, and the revenues are extremely good. There's some tricky, difficulty areas to be addressed as far as seaside air shows are concerned. You flashed up the Blue Eagles there. So latterly, I then became a reservist for the Army Air Corps, and one of the gift jobs I had was managing the air display teams, of which there were 2. Okay. Now the interesting about this slide is it's a hybrid slide. So I was managing both the 5-ship Blue Eagles and the 6-ship Historic Flight. And in 2008, we decided to celebrate the 40th. What was it? No, it was the 40th anniversary of the Blue Eagles by embedding in it 2 of the historic helicopters, and that worked really, really well. But what happened then? So that got me involved in the obviously back in the air display world. I had previously managed one of the very large air displays at Middle Wallop. We used to run a thing called the International Air Show, when the International Air Tattoo was only biannual, and then we would fill the gap at Middle Wallop by running the help. And we had the implants, Tim Prince and co. That's where we first met. Brilliant shows, beautiful part of the countryside. Sadly, no more. So that got me firmly embedded in air displays. Obviously, I got my PDA as a display pilot as well. But that's what led me into the commentary as well, interestingly enough. Because, of course, as well as flying in one team, I was commentating on the other. And that was 20 years ago, and I'm still doing quite a lot of it, which is rather nice. So, it's all down to whether the phone keeps ringing or not. But there we are. I'm trying to look at the comments to see what people are asking now. Yeah, why aren't we following American air shows? You're partly with free streaming. Yeah, there were Fest TV, stuff like that. Yeah, I've mixed it all up. I mean, we experimented with TV at Riyadh this year as well. For those of you that attended that, there are a lot of issues with it. It is tricky to do. Eastbourne. Must surely, I'm not so sure they will shorten to 4 days. Bournemouth went to 3 days for a lot of other reasons. The financial models are very, very difficult to manage, because with a fixed base, you can do early ticketing. You can know what your income is going to be before the show starts. You can't do that with a free open to air show. Very, very difficult. So you've got to rely on council funding or somebody else to underwrite it, and that is where we're currently at. So councils are under a huge pressure. And Bournemouth have wilted and are going to take a gap next year until they come up with a new model with an external supporter. Others are trying different ways. Torbay is the same. Torbay and Eastbourne are looking at different ways to do that. I have my own views on how I think it should be financed, but probably not for this forum. And US air shows, you're absolutely right, put emphasis on the pilots. They see it very, very much being focused on entertainment, which is very much, I think, what the Seaside focus is, family entertainment. And they make their pilots more stars than we do. We tend to underplay it, typical Britishness. I'm not so sure that I'm a fan of the American culture. I've been to several of the shows across the pond there. But the other thing is their financial models are different. Pacific Air Show is a good example. You know, it's very, very much modeled on high income from the hospitality VIP market, which we don't really have that great focus on because of, you know, general access. But I can see that changing. I'm going to give you a break now to ask me another question, because somebody said, you're not asking me enough questions.
Damien, Ed.
Smokey. Smokey, that's a good story. Yeah, well, should we finish on this? Because I'm going to hog your interview or your program. So, Smokey, right, that was also Canada. I'd only been there about 6 weeks. This could be a very long story because it was very, very funny. But I'm at about, 6,000 feet on my way into Calgary, and I get this acrid, smoky, smelly smell in the cockpit. The ADC, I had a Treasury minister in the back who had to get it to a particular aircraft. This half-wit ADC said, "Oh, well, I did polish, I did bull up my shoes a lot. Maybe I just a bit too close to the heater." I mean, no, this is a little more serious. So I just said, and I then got very serious. So I decided to, I called a mayday, actually, I could have called a pan. And what had happened, cut a long story short, is that the starter motor had jammed in a particular way. It had overloaded the electrical system. The electrical system on the other side of the firewall had caught fire. It was more, it wasn't a serious fire, but it was definitely dangerous. And I knew it was time to stop flying and actually get it on the ground. The big error was from about 6,000 feet. All the fields in Canada are a 1 mile square, so you're never short of somewhere to land. So I looked down at this one area, and I'm thinking, oh, that looks a really good field. So cut the engine, cut the fuel, all the stuff, cut the ignition, gliding down very nicely. And then at about 700 or 800 feet, I think, oh my God, this is a field of fresh barley. Okay, so I was committed. In I went. Very neat landing, absolutely, and then a wonderful furrow all the way through this field of fresh barley. Not surprisingly, the first man out was the farmer with a shotgun, not very happy. Language was unbelievable. Minister of State gets out of the aircraft, not having a clue what's just gone on. And then whilst he is throwing expletives at us, the next thing you hear is a whole series of sirens going on as the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in their station wagons come blue lighting from about 4 different angles, having been alerted by Calgary that there was an aircraft in an emergency. It all ended very happily, but it was a very, very amusing situation on the ground, I can assure you. And maybe in a bar with some of you online, the answer to the question is very shortly later, some text flew in a chopper on the side of this aircraft, because I was only a pilot, the only pilot flying it for 2 years. I had my name in letters on the left-hand door, and when I got out, I had noticed that both doors had been smeared with smoky debris and all that sort of stuff. So it was quite a serious fire after all. But he merely licked his finger, and above my name, he put Smokey on the door. And that was it.
Thank you for joining us. It's been really fun talking to you.
Well, I feel I've I've hogged it, but thank you. I just hope all your participants. Oh, right. Yeah, I'm glad that some people have enjoyed it. I suspect not everybody, but anyway, it's been a real pleasure and an honor, and I'm really humbled that you even called me up to join it.
And I wonder whether we should get George to judge tonight's fancy hanger. What do you think, guys?
I think so. So, George, if you've got another 5 minutes to hang around during fancy hanger, that would be great.
Oh, okay. I might need to get another beer. Crack on. I don't. No, let's do it. Let's do it. I'm enjoying it.
We'll bring you back in a bit.
All right. Okay.
Wow.
I think it's fair to say the audience like George. There's lots of great comments there.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so I dread an electrical fire. So for George to sit there going, "Oh yeah, it wasn't too bad." Smoke down roads.
He's so funny. He's with the electric image.
I know, yeah. So this week, obviously inspired by talking display flying, we just heard George talking about it. That had us thinking, how about something for our fancy hangers that would be good for a season of display flying? So who's first?
It's Dave.
Dave, what have you gone for?
Well, yeah, I first chose the Sea Vixen, the Havilland Sea Vixen, but then during rehearsals, Ed said, I was wondering because it wasn't really. There's not none flying at the moment. So the one that possibly was going to fly is with Navy Wings, but they've decided it's not economical to make that one fly. But having thought more about it, the real aircraft I'd really love to fly in a season would be the Vulcan. I mean, this is fantasy hangar. There is a picture there.
What was that?
I said before I put the picture up, there aren't any of those flying either.
No,
but and as Annabelle
but this is fantasy hangar. So if I was going to have any aircraft, it would be this, the Vulcan.
That is, yeah. I think that's a pretty good choice, and I think it's fair to say is a pretty good. I mean, as crowd pleasers go, that is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm going to jump to Johnny now.
Johnny,
right? I've gone for something very different, and it's along the lines of you can. There's always some airplanes you remember the first time you've seen them.
Yeah,
because they're striking, they're loud, they're whatever. I've never seen this thing, but if I did, I think it would stick in your memory for a long time. This is the Boeing Bird of Prey. Now on its gear, it looks a bit ungainly, but I think in the air it looks pretty cool.
Wow!
And it did fly. That's a real thing. I don't know how many hours it did. It was in the 90s. It was flying with Boeing and McDonnell Douglas.
That looks like something that came out of Jerry Anderson's design handbook.
Yeah, exactly. But you'd get booked up for every air show, I think.
I think so. That with the smoke system, I don't know whether you go grey, whether you go for a brighter colour.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, I don't know. That'll be yours. Okay, well, I'm going to jump in before Ed comes in with his inevitable Ed wins attempt.
I'm not sure. I think Dave may have it tonight.
I went sort of simple. I went low tech. I didn't go to any of this bloody big noise and stuff like that. I went for something that people can kind of imagine, can get their hands onto. And also, I've kind of chopped up this chap's video a little bit because it was too long otherwise. And I took away all of the American music because otherwise you get a copyright strike. So I replaced it with some more elevator music to make it more appropriate. So here you go. I give you the Beach 80. I mean, that control, that yoke has only got one position, and that is like full
it's
right.
like, all over one way or the other. And we have beach 18. You'd be competing with other beach 18s, but I think the aerobatics in a beach 18, we haven't had that over here, and I think we need that, don't we?
Yeah, it's amazing to see it at Oshkosh. She really flies that thing well.
Here's a comment. Katkin says, with that display, you need matte. The aircraft on its own is relatively insignificant. Ian's face disagrees.
I mean, you do need matte as well, but this is not about Katkin. It might be fantasy pilot for you, but for us, it's fantasy hangar. Okay.
Robert said he crossed his arms, failed his driving test.
Yeah, 10-2. That's what you need your yoke at. 10-2. Shuffle it round. Okay, Ed.
So you may have seen that the Blue Angels have a support act. They've got their C-130 that has flown in the past with rockets on, and you go, well, that's kind of cool. But I thought, I need something that's easy, fly around. I can kip in. It's like I can take friends, and then I can do a really neat display. So I picked this. This is, and you may not know this, but this is the bonkers XC-130H Hercules. It was a crazy development of the Herc that was designed to fly in and out of a 110-meter football field. Now, it had military origins, clearly. The Americans had to go and rescue some hostages from the US embassy in Tehran, and the plan was they would go and fly in and out of a football field. And basically, some engineers went, we're going to need to strap some more rockets on. They calculated they would need 58 of the regular rocket-assisted takeoff bottles. In what they came up with, the XC-130H, which was codenamed Incredible Sport, they ended up with a total of 30 and way more powerful rocket engines that they got from anti-submarine missiles, other missiles in the US Air Force, and the surface-to-air missile things. There were rockets on the front, rockets on the bottom, rockets on the back. And I just think, what a fantastic display aeroplane that would be. It would be a very short display, but it would be a lot of noise and smoke and general craziness.
I have a quick question about this.
Yes.
What it was designed for. When they had to go and rescue these footballers.
Yes. No, they didn't rescue.
Did they take the big post down at the end?
You read around about it, and there was no talk of goalpost, and apparently the stadium had kind of fairly not too steep seating at either end, so it was not too obstructed approaches, but completely bonkers. As it happened, they went and tested this, and this did actually work. So obviously the idea was lots of thrust to get you off the ground. In terms of landing really short, it had rockets that went off at the bottom, and then you had rockets that slowed you down. And this all worked really well until somehow they fired the rockets that pointed forwards without the rockets that pointed down, and the thing fell out the sky and disintegrated. And they walked away. But I just think as a display aeroplane, as long as no one asks to see my health and safety assessment, risk assessment, I'll be fine.
I think it's time to get the result from George.
Neil says Ed is overselling.
Am I back? Well, really interesting stuff. It reminds me a little bit of Have I Got News for You, and which is the odd one out. I'm not a fan of the modern CAD design. It's all so easy. So, Johnny, it just doesn't do anything for me. There's no emotion, there's no passion in that sort of thing. Hugely impressed, of course, with Roy Chadwick, who moved from the Lancaster to the Vulcan in the space of just 11 years. That's a phenomenal design envelope. And yes, very worthy. I like the idea of Richard Goodwin flying the masterful exploding Herc. That is a great suggestion, and I'm sure Rich would be up for it. But for me, it's got to have that passion. It's got to have that heritage. It's got to have that uniqueness. And hands down, Ian and the Beach are tonight's winners.
Oh my gosh! It's an Ian wins.
George, I'll buy you that plane.
Now everybody will go off me and they won't ever want to see me back. So, but Ian, you and I will get on just fine from here on.
It's fine. It just means I don't have to write my risk assessment, which I fear would have some peril in it.
But I agree, it's got great air display potential. There's no doubt about that. Really great.
Short, but spectacular.
You can imagine the initial application to the CAA, can't you?
Yes. I feel it would be good at a night air show as well.
Okay, I'm just I much. How much did you pay George? Well, I don't know. I'm hoping that the crate of beer will arrive tomorrow morning, but that's down to Ian. We'll see. Anyway, guys, great fun joining you. Terrific experience and wonderful to see so much participation in the chat line too.
We look forward to seeing you again, George, and hearing even more of your stories.
Well, whenever. Take a break.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, George.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Right, Dave. A quick go on. We're only a little bit late, so it's not too bad. A quick go on the old events.
Yep. So Saturday and Sunday, 12th and 13th, Cardiff Airport charity flying. Saturday the 12th, there's the Autumn Air October flying at Stowe Maries. Next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, the 15th to the 16th, there is the Royal Aeronautical Society's President's Conference. This is called Design, Build, Fly. Details on the website. And Saturday, the 19th of October, Pilot Careers Live in Dublin.
Look forward to seeing you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, George. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Have a great weekend flying. Thank you very much, team. And we'll see you next week, Wednesday if you're a member, and Thursday if you're not. Here you go.
Cheers.
Hello, this video is sponsored by us, the Fly Club, and if you're not a member already, we'd love for you to join.
Members get access to all of our content, our free landing fees every month, exclusive webinars and much, much more.
It costs just £5 per month to become a member, so head on over to flyer.co.uk/membership or click the link in the description below.
It's a proper good deal.
It's a bargain.